Although Psycho 3 has aged well, and now stands out as one of the more interesting and stylish horror films of the 80s, back in the day its meager box office returns were a major disappointment. Roger Ebert tried to help spread some good word, but his positive review was torpedoed by old Baldy McSourpuss.
And so the film just sort of sat there, and I ended up just being bored.
And I think this is a much better movie than you're giving it credit for.
Well, there's no question that you think so, and I disagree. Coming up next, four bright and funny young people.
The message from Universal was clear. Psycho 3 had disgraced the franchise, and there would be no more feature films. The facade of the Psycho house was a major attraction at the Universal Studio Tour. I'm pretty sure one day, an executive looked at it and said, "Well, geez, we have the house on the back lot. We might as well make a TV show with it." So, in the summer of 1987, NBC aired the pilot of a proposed television series based on Psycho, called Bates Motel. A title so good, 25 years later, A&E would use it for their new series. From the very beginning, it's obvious Bates Motel isn't attempting to recreate the atmosphere of the films. Just listen to its opening theme. This is your Psycho TV series? Sounds like the background music they play on Oprah when some woman's talking about her dumb kid who overcame an eating disorder or something.
You're gonna die, and you can live. I was so scared to keep.
It seems Universal didn't want Anthony Perkins anywhere near this production. One of the first things they do is kill off Norman. In the flashbacks, he's played by a different actor. The TV show centers on a new character, this kid Alex, who comes from a very sad background. After his mother dies, he's left in the care of an abusive stepfather, who constantly beats him, until one day...
Says he owned a dry cleaning store, and would beat him and lock him in a large dryer.
Till one day when the dad crawled inside to clean it, and little Alex closed the door, pressed a button, and dry cleaned him.
Seems extreme. That would get little Alex thrown into the mental hospital for the criminally insane. Oh, that's not even the weird part.
You know what I think, Alex? I think you need a real friend. And so I took the small boy, so frightened and all alone, to meet Norman Bates.
Yeah, let's take this fragile child and make him become best buddies with the sex maniac who committed multiple vicious murders. Aw, isn't that cute? Look at the two of them together. I know Norman mostly killed women he was sexually attracted to, but seeing him frolic with a little boy makes me uncomfortable. When Norman dies, he leaves the Bates Motel to Alex. Once Alex gets his walking papers, he decides to run the motel, his way of keeping Norman's spirit alive. Why are those kids fighting over which balloon they want? They're all the same. Carrying an urn of Norman's cremated ashes, Alex inspects the abandoned motel. There's an interesting moment when he looks at the ledger, and you can see where Marion Crane signed in as Marie Samuels. Nice callback to Psycho.
Your home address? Oh, just the town will do.
But the ledger in-joke goes even deeper. In the original Psycho, the previous guest to sign in before Marion was one Michael Scott of San Francisco. How about that? Michael Scott stayed at the Bates Motel.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
But in the TV show, the name is now Mildred Scott of San Francisco.
No!
Weird they would decide to change the name from Michael to Mildred. They didn't have to include the ledger at all. It isn't some important piece of exposition. Why go through the trouble of copying all the unimportant details of Michael Scott's sign-in and then change his first name? I'd say this is either an in-joke, like the prop master who made the ledger had a mother-in-law named Mildred, or they couldn't read the original writing and misspelled the name Michael as Mildred. Remember, this was back in 1987, when you couldn't get HD screenshots with the snap of a finger. Another interesting detail about the ledger is the date, July 1960. In Psycho, Marion Crane arrives at the Bates Motel in December, not July. As most fans of Psycho know, the decision to have the movie take place in December was on account of the footage shot for the rear projection scenes of Marion driving. When this footage was filmed, the street poles still had Christmas decorations on them. Wanting to keep the budget as low as possible, Hitchcock figured it would be easier to insert a title card with the date December 11th at the beginning of the movie than it would be to reshoot all that driving footage. After Bates Motel prompted me to compare the two ledgers, I saw something I'd never noticed before. This Michael Scott character signed into the motel on April 18th. Most likely, this sequence was shot before the Christmas decoration problem was noticed in the driving footage, so that would suggest this is the time period Psycho was originally conceived of taking place, not during December, but late April or early May. Is this whole video going to be the ledger? It's enough. Since Alex comes off as a weirdo, I mean, until yesterday he's been in the nut house his whole life, the producers were probably worried the audience would think he was gay or asexual, so they shoehorn in a love interest. Look, it's Tank Girl wearing a chicken suit.
If I'd wanted a roommate, I'd have just put an ad in the paper.
During construction of the new motel, a worker is electrocuted, leading to the discovery of a body buried in the ground. It's Norman's mother. Huh?
Then you really think that this is...
None other than the little woman of the house herself, Mrs. Gloria Bates.
What the hell is she doing down there? Did the makers of this not watch the original movie? Surely they're not suggesting that after Sam subdued Norman and unmasked him as the killer, that the police grabbed her old bag of bones from out of the fruit cellar and buried her on the grounds of the motel? I can understand them ignoring Psycho 2 and 3, but if you're going to ignore the continuity of the original film, why bother making the show in the first place? They end up stealing the plot from Psycho 2, where Lila Loomis was pretending to be Mother in order to drive Norman crazy. In Bates Motel, a greedy bank manager dresses up like Mother in order to scare Alex away so he can buy the valuable property. This pilot is actually 2 shows in one, as I guess they weren't 100% certain what the format was going to be. The first half is a show about Alex and the chicken lady living in the spooky old Bates house. The second half imagines Bates Motel as an anthology series, like The Twilight Zone, where every week a new guest would check in and have some kind of supernatural adventure. A woman arrives and is about to slit her wrists in the tub. Really? You know, for a show that wants to pretend the Psycho sequels don't exist, they're sure taking a lot from them. Anyway, she's about to kill herself when some nosy party girl wanders into her room. All of her buddies have checked into the motel, and they're boogieing down in the cafe. The girl introduces Suicide Lady to a young Jason Bateman, and even though she's old enough to be his mother, soon they're about to get hot and heavy. Yowza.
I committed suicide 25 years ago.
However, it turns out all these young revelers are the ghosts of kids who committed suicide. They're doomed to roam the earth, warning others not to kill themselves, lest they end up like them. But I don't know, that kinda looks like a pretty good afterlife to me. They get to pal around together, traveling the countries, wild parties every night, maybe get some nookie from some old MILFs. I can think of worse ways to spend eternity.
Oh, by the way, if you ever need a room, come on by. Can't say for sure what you'll find, but that is what makes the world go round.
Of course, we never saw any of these people again, as Bates Motel did not become a TV series. There was only one final kick at the cat. For that, they decided to bring back Norman. And we'll warn you right now, it is not a happy ending.
It stinks.
Shenanigans. It's been a lot of fun, shenanigans. But now we've got to run. It's funny how the minutes seem to fly.